Okay, so now talking about the effects or the impact of global warming on the mankind, on the lifestyle, on the flora and fauna of a particular region, or in a vast case, you can talk about the wildlife and the plant biodiversity. We can talk about the economy a bit, also the geography associated with various regions, as well as the most important thing, that is the climate. So let's go step by step. So as I mentioned, the first point, that is the disappearance of the flora and fauna species. Yes, all are not warm-blooded animals. Warm-blooded or homeotherms. Homeotherms, actually they have an ability of adjusting themselves to the changing environmental temperatures. If it changes, accordingly they get adjusted to that temperature. The brain has that organ. The hypothalamus is well organized, it is well functioned, a structure over there in the brain which is able to reciprocate to the temperature alterations in the environment. Now, that thing is not present in case of the cold-blooded animals, the poikilotherms. In that case, what happens? If there is slight variation in the temperature of the external environment, they immediately start responding to it, they start reacting. As a result, if the temperature shows a diversity in the variations, a very diverse range of varieties or alterations are seen in the temperature, they are definitely not going to survive. That is the reason, if there is global warming, the temperature is going to rise up at a particular region, many species of the plants and the animals, they are going to respond to it. Some might even die, and there might be a case in which many species will be at the merge of extinction. Now coming to when we talk about the flora and fauna, so flora refers to the species of the plants and fauna refers to the species of the animals. So melting of glaciers and ice caps. Okay, now in the mountainous or the polar ice cap regions, over there what happens, if there is rise in temperature of the atmosphere of the environment, because of that hot temperature, the ice is definitely going to melt. It is not going to be at that particular stability, that it is not going to melt, it is not going to show any sort of reaction. It will melt. Once the glaciers and the ice caps start melting, the water level is going to rise, and that is what I have mentioned, the rise in sea level. If that thing starts contributing to the sea water, simultaneously the same thing will be seen in case of the rivers also, because rivers are the ones which contribute to the sea. And if there is rise in sea level, there will be anyhow, even though late, there might be a late response, but definitely you are going to see a gradual increase in the level of the seawater as well as the river water. So if this happens, definitely it is going to affect the topography of a particular place or a particular country even. There might be cases in which many parts of the land of the country, they start getting submerged in the seawater because the level has risen. The land start getting submerged into it. Once this happens, as a result, the entire topography is going to change. Now in that case, you're going to have a good time in geography, especially when it comes to map pointing. Be very careful of when it comes to ICC schools especially. Okay, anyways, now coming to farm yield and agricultural output. How is that thing affected? Definitely, as I mentioned, that many floral species or the plant species are going to respond to this climate change or to this global warming, the sudden increase in the temperature. So definitely, if that goes up suddenly, they will not be able to cope up with that change, and thus they might show resistance, they might show reactions in which they are not able to stand up, they are not able to bear it, and ultimately they are going to not survive, they might die. So if that happens, then definitely the agricultural output is affected. And when it comes to countries like India, which is mostly dependent on the agricultural output, the economy is completely dependent mostly on the agricultural output. In that case, definitely it is going to face a good deal of setback or drawback. Now talking about the diseases and the heat related neuropsychological disorders. Now actually our brain has a particular structure called the hypothalamus. We actually refer it to as the thermostat of our body. Thermostat means it is able to adjust the body temperature as per the external temperature. All the metabolic activities are accordingly adjusted. If that thing stops responding or is able to face the limit to which it can control the body temperature because the outer temperature has gone too high, the hypothalamus will not be able to adjust the body temperature to that particular stage. As a result, what is going to happen? That particular structure will start showing drawback or setback, and definitely your brain will start showing various changes, because of which there will be behavioral alterations, memory might be hampered, your cognition skills, way of understanding, reciprocating to a particular stimulus, responding to a particular stimulus, talking, your thinking, everything will start getting affected. And then apart from that, you can see a lot of diseases. Now, where from this diseases has popped up over here? Thing is, we cannot forget the very beautiful thing called bacteria. Now, bacteria generally they survive in a particular environment, but once they start getting adjusted to a particular change in the environment, they get resistant to it. For example, a set of bacteria, a particular strain might be sensible to a particular range of temperature, because global warming is not a one night phenomenon. Over the night this is not going to happen. It is going to happen gradually. In that case, what happens, if these set of bacteria, this strain of bacteria is going to respond to it, it starts showing resistance to the temperature change. Means if you are using boiling water to kill it, definitely it will be glad to receive, oh please come. It will be glad to receive that boiling water, and it will not be you will not be able to kill it with that particular method. So if these bacteria are going to survive, definitely they are going to show a rapid proliferation rate in that high temperature. Rapid proliferation rate means high rate of incubation. High rate of incubation is definitely going to give you a good deal of infection and hence disease. So definitely global warming is going to contribute a bit to the increase in the rate of diseases. Now, talking about the change in regional climate, there is no second opinion in it. If there is rise in temperature or the global warming of a particular region, the whole climate of that particular area is going to be affected, no doubt in that. If climate is affected, flora and fauna, the biodiversity over there is going to be affected in that. So these are the things you need to understand as what is going to be the impact of the global warming. So there cannot be a second opinion, and I don't think there is something which is totally out of the world which you are not able to understand. These are in the layman terms. We know that this is definitely going to happen. So I hope these things are pretty clear to you. And in case if you have any doubts, if you have any questions are always welcome, and no question is stupid enough until and unless it has a good answer for it. So any questions are most welcome. You can type the questions in the comment section. I would be really glad and obliged to answer them personally. Okay, so in this next part of the video, we will be covering about the policies, the measures that can be adopted in order to curb this global warming scenario. Okay, now talking about the policy measure, the various measures or the policies that are taken up by an individual, or you can say a country, or even all over the world, in order to you can say relax the effects of global warming, or in order to avoid the further circumstances of this global warming which might arise, and they are going to create a great deal of problem, because we all are aware that what is likely to happen if global warming is going to continue in the next few years. Now, all those measures and the policies, they can be categorized into three basic ones. This is technological measures, then you have the economic, policy measures. Now actually a lot will be given in many of your textbooks and many of your articles, journals, everything, but let us keep it very simple. Simple in the sense, if we're talking about the technological measures, we know that stop using too much of electricity. You should use those energy efficient devices which use a minimum of energy, so that you are able to conserve electricity, you are able to conserve the natural resources, blah blah blah. Okay, a lot. Now let's come to the point. Stick to the point. No use beating around the bush. First thing is renewable resources of energy. Why to go to the extent of using electricity by burning your fossil fuels or by using your nuclear reactors? Why not go for renewable sources of energy? You have wind, you have sun, the solar energy, you can use the water, the hydro energy. Apart from that, you have a lot like the geothermal energy, you can use the tidal energy, depends upon the geography of a particular place. But yes, this can be utilized. If this can be utilized, then no need of going up to the extent of burning the fossil fuels and obtaining electricity out of it. So definitely it is going to be energy efficient. Now talking about the transportation, when we use this transportation, definitely while driving a car, it is definitely not running on water. It is running on petrol. Some transportation units, they require diesel, they use various other fossil fuels. But instead of that, you can use those technologies which actually use the bio waste, and they can harness it to produce fuels which can be actually used instead of these fossil fuels. So if those things are actually created or manufactured, definitely it is going to affect the fossil fuel consumption. Again, over here, the automobile engineering comes to the forefront. There are so many engineers, but they are not efficient ones who can actually think and formulate these new concepts. Who can? But you people, some out of all those who are watching this, you might have that budding thing, budding ideology or budding talent inside you, and you can definitely harness it. Anyways, talking about these gadgets or technologies like biochar stoves and solar devices. Actually, biochar stoves is something new, so I thought that I should throw some light over it. It might not be complete set of information which gives you a complete idea of what biochar stove is, but yes, I hope this gives you some basic idea about what exactly it is. Biochar stove is actually, or you can say it is called a device in which they use the fuel, but that fuel is not completely a liquid or a gaseous component. It is not something of that composition. It is definitely a solid which is converted into char or charcoal or residue which can be buried in the soil, and that can further enhance the soil fertility and also facilitate something called carbon sequestration. Now, carbon sequestration is very important because you are giving the plants back the carbon which they have given to the environment, which they have already released into the environment. The carbon cycle is balanced in that case. If biochar is something which you are returning it back to the environment, to the soil itself, you are creating a carbon sink. You are rejuvenating the carbon sink all over again by the process of carbon sequestration. So carbon sequestration is a very important concept which I'll be covering in the next few of my videos. Now talking about this biochar stove, it has a two-way inlet of air, because of which whatever gaseous components are released by the burning of that fuel, they are made harmless due to the secondary air suction into it, and further can be utilized to produce the flame. And above all, the most important thing, the entire fuel after burning down is converted to the biochar, which you can use to return back to the soil as a manure, and for increasing the fertility, the biome means I mean to say the microbes, the soil microbes which are very essential for the plant growth or maintaining the soil fertility, they can also be facilitated because of that. Now talking about economic measures, the most important thing is about the reforestation and sustainable land use. Land is very important when it comes about the proper utilization. It is very important that how you utilize the piece of land which you have got. You can use it for agriculture, you can use it for your building up a mall, you can use it for any other activity you like as per your wish. But right now, even most of the municipal corporations, they have allocated a particular land, a particular purpose. Accordingly, you have to purchase it, and accordingly you have to use it. If something has been allocated for the use of only agriculture, you cannot use it for your construction purposes, construction of any building or any mall or anything like that. You have to take prior permission, and there is a tedious long procedure for that. And apart from that, there are various agricultural practices which can actually make the land completely worthless for use, because it is going to degrade it or replenish all the micronutrients, the soil fertility because of which the plants are actually able to grow, that is completely devoid from that particular land. So reforestation techniques for planting new trees in a particular patch of land if it has been completely removed and made barren, and sustainable land use for agricultural processes and practices like crop rotation, practices like terrace farming, and all those things, they actually help in making the land fertile, and simultaneously you can grow a variety of crops and they will not make those land get devoid of the nutrients or the fertility on the further use. Next and most important thing is about the carbon tax. What is carbon tax? Carbon tax is actually a pollution tax, you can say a form of indirect tax which is levied on a particular industry, a particular country on the basis of the carbon emissions. Now, recently this Apple company, it came up with this concept of not providing mobile charges with the Apple phones. What is the reason? That we assume that you have a charger previously, you can use that to charge a device, and we do not want to emit more carbon into the environment. So in next few years, even that company might come up with this ideology that we provide you the box, you can keep your own phone in it. We provide you the sticker, you can just paste it behind a mobile phone, existing mobile phone, and make it an Apple branded phone. Anyways, coming to the most important point, leave this joke apart. Carbon tax is actually levied on the consumption of the fossil fuels, the fuel that is used by the particular country in running the automobile. If they use most amount of fuel, accordingly you pay tax. In order to reduce the tax burden, definitely they will move into an alternate way so that they are able to fulfill all the requirements, but by using alternative sources of energy. So that is how the carbon tax is levied. And in fact, all the economists come up to this point that more the carbon tax or the global carbon tax form is introduced, then definitely the people are going to come down to the economic forefront where they will actually support the environmental cause. They'll be aware that we are not supposed to use most of the fossil fuels for transportation, which is definitely going to affect the environment because of carbon emissions. Now coming back to the policy measures. Sustainable lifestyle and awareness among people on mass scale. Now, mass scale awareness can only be created when they understand the disadvantage of population explosion. So, population explosion in highly populated countries like China, India, that has to be controlled first, because more the number of people, more will be their lifestyle demands. They will demand luxury, and if they demand all these things, then definitely it is going to affect the economic as well as the environmental output. And in order to put this under control, the awareness among people has to be created. And secondly, the term sustainable means the resources you use now and you also preserve them simultaneously for the future generations. That is what the word sustainable means. So I hope these basic measures, these are just a broad category or broad headings under which you follow a lot more other measures or technologies which can be utilized in order to curb down or bring down the global warming stuff. So I hope this video was a sort of helpful to you to quickly recapitulate everything you knew about the global warming, everything you did not know about global warming. You come across all these new things like biochar stoves and some more of the stuff. And in most of the coming videos, we'll be talking about carbon sequestration. We'll be talking about definitely the concepts like Kyoto Protocol, the worldwide environmental conferences, which are actually implemented a lot of regulations in order to bring down this global environmental issues into the limelight. So ending this over here, whatever doubts you have, whatever questions you have, you can feel free to write in the comment box over there and we will be extremely obliged to answer them.